Hey there, Shauna from Skip Blast here. This is the first video in my series on how to get started with blogging or niche sites if you are a complete beginner and you just don't know where to get started. Today we're going to start with picking the niche for your site because I feel like this is the first step that you need to take. Okay, so you've decided that you want to start a blog or a niche site or an affiliate site, but you're not really sure, like, what topic do I want to cover on this particular blog? Or maybe even do I want to make it a personal blog? I find that it is best to pick a topic and not make it a personal blog if you actually want to start earning money from your website. I feel like there are four basically key considerations that you have to basically think about before you pick that niche for your blog. I think you will be best served if you pick something that you are already interested in or something that you know really well. I also think that you have to focus on picking a topic for your site that you can monetize, whether it's display ads or affiliate programs or something else. It's also a great idea to pick a niche where you already know people are successful in it, right? They're already earning money. And ideally, you can pick a topic for your site that meets a need. Okay, let's dig into these four things to consider now a little more, a little deeper, right? So the reason that I think you should really focus on a niche that is either something that you're super interested in or something where you're already, an expert or super knowledgeable on, that's going to make this whole thing a lot easier for you, right? Not only will you not get bored because it's not going to be something like basically completely foreign to you, but if you're going to be like outsourcing content or anything like that, you're really going to be able to basically edit that content, much quicker because you're already going to know about the topics, right? Picking something that you're already knowledgeable in as well means that you're going to know the pain points of your audience. You're going to know the questions that your audience is going to have. You're probably already going to know things like what types of products do people use and like in that particular niche. And that's going to put you a few steps ahead of the competition, who may be going into the same topic but doesn't have that background that you already have. So the reason we need to think about how we can make money from a niche before we even pick one is because I'm assuming that you're not wanting to do this, just for fun, right? You're looking to make some money from it. Whether that's just some passive income, like some hobby money, or whether you want like job replacing income. This is a super important thing to consider before you pick that niche. So there's lots of different ways that you can monetize, a blog or a niche site. It can be something like affiliate links, like to Amazon. It can be display ads, whether that's something like AdSense or something, for more those high traffic sites like Mediavine. It could be info products. This could be something like printables, ebooks, courses, anything like that. And those I feel like are the top three ways that you can monetize a site, but there are countless others. Like if you pick something where you're an expert, maybe you can do some consulting through the site, things like that. So basically, as you're kind of trying to pick a niche, make sure you think about ways that you can make money from the niche because that is our end goal with starting a blog or a niche site. The next thing that we want to see is competition, right? Now, we don't want to see like crazy heavy competition for something like the VPN niche, for instance, or website hosting. But what we want to see is that other people are actually doing this. And the reason that we want to see some competition is that if there is competition, then that means there is most likely money to be made from it, right? Because we're not going to have tons of people making websites about golfing if they can't make money from golfing, right? So that's just something to keep in mind as you are going through this, thinking like, what am I interested in? What do I know about? Can I make money from it? Is anybody else actually doing this or can I not make money from it? Basically, if there is no competition, you might think that's a great thing for you, but that usually just ends up meaning you can't make money from it, right? There's a reason that there's no competition. And just to give you a quick example of this, several years ago, when 3D, video cameras and 3D TVs were getting ready to come out, I had the idea to start a site focused on that because I was like, oh man, these are going to be huge, and there was like no competition. That site, as you might expect, never made any money, not really. because those things never actually took off. Now, trying to get in on a trend before it becomes huge often works out. In that instance, it didn't. And I should have known that, honestly, because no one else had really made sites on that yet. So that's just a personal story of why it is important to make sure there is at least some competition before you pick a niche. So the reason why we want to try to pick a niche that solves a problem is because basically the bigger the problem, the more important the need, then the bigger the audience is going to be for your site. So let's say you are really passionate about sleep problems like snoring, or maybe you actually, work in the medical industry and have, a job that relates to that. Snoring is a huge problem, right? So that means the audience for this is huge. So that's kind of what I'm talking about. But of course, it doesn't have to be, a problem or a need as big as snoring, right? So one thing that I always like to do is use this hierarchy of needs here to kind of like gauge how big the audience will be. So with this particular pyramid, what we see at the bottom is going to be like the biggest need and the most audience, and then at the top it's going to be the smallest need and the smallest audience. And we'll just go through this real quick in case you've never actually seen this before. So that bottom bar there, that's going to include things like survival, maybe the homesteading niche. These are like going to be the big audiences, the big needs. Then we move on up to safety. That's going to, if you're making a site focused on with this particular category, that's going to be things like health and well-being, maybe personal finance, things like that. Then we go on up to the next one, love and belonging. That's pretty obvious, right? That's going to be something like a site on relationships, for instance. Next category up, it's going to be esteem. What that means in this particular instance is basically how, things that make us feel valued and respected, maybe accepted, in the community or among our peers. This is actually one of my favorite categories to create sites in, because hobbies actually fits really well into this particular category because, we have hobbies that we do with other people, other groups of people, and that basically that's like a form of acceptance, right? And getting, valued and respected within a local peer group. And that can be something as simple as knitting. Maybe you're like a really passionate knitter and you want to do a site about that. Fits perfectly here, and the audience is actually quite large for knitting as well. And then the very top of this particular pyramid here, what this actually refers to in this instance is like anything that like basically refers to us living up to our potential, right? That could be something like, maybe you're going to do a site, focus on different careers. Maybe you work in human resources, and this is all going to be focused on careers. You could also be a site focused on musicians, who are trying to get gigs and things like that. So maybe you're a musician or maybe a guitar player or something like that. So you have all these tips on basically playing guitar and recording at home in your home studio, maybe getting gigs, things like that. I don't know, maybe like open mic nights, things like that. Those are all things that would fit into that, that very top pyramid. But, like I said, things at the very top of that pyramid, that is not as big of a need as what we have in the bottom of that pyramid. So as you're going through this process, try to focus on things that fit all of the previous requirements that we just discussed, but are as close to the bottom of this pyramid as possible. And that's going to give you the widest audience possible for your particular site. Another thing that I didn't actually get in these slides is it is better if you can pick a niche or a topic that is evergreen, right? So it would be better to pick, if you wanted to go into something like sports related, a site focused on running compared to kayaking, because kayaking is a seasonal niche, right? So we're not going to get that traffic all year long. We're only going to get in those hot summer months. So like I said, go through all of these, these factors that we're considering, and also keep in mind something that is evergreen is going to serve you better than something that is seasonal. In the next video, we're going to discuss getting a domain name for your actual website. I'm going to tell you everything that you need to know about that so that you don't make any mistakes. And if you're interested in getting some additional training right now, You can head on over to bloggingsuccessengine.com. It's the URL here on the screen as well as in the description below. That is actually a membership program that I have created. It includes every course that I have ever created about blogging and growing and building websites, as well as a private forum and monthly live masterclasses where I do some kind of one-on-one training with everyone who's in the group. You can check that out if you want. Otherwise, stay tuned for that next video on getting the domain name. And if you want to be notified, go ahead and click the bell button below.